The Labour Party is no stranger to internal dissent. Yet the tremors currently rippling through its headquarters are not the result of attacks from its political opponents across the aisle, they stem from an intensifying and deeply personal rebellion within its own ranks. The disquiet is no longer a whisper in the corridors of Westminster, it has erupted into open confrontation, threatening to upend the fragile unity that Sir Keir Starmer once worked so meticulously to construct. Starmer, once heralded as the man to steady Labour's ship after the turbulence of recent years, is now navigating a political storm of his own making. Nearly 50 Labour MPs, many of whom previously stood loyally behind their leader, now openly challenging his authority. At the heart of this revolt is a deeply controversial and widely condemned proposal, the tightening of disability benefit entitlements at a time when millions across the country are already buckling under the weight of an unprecedented cost of living crisis. To call the policy divisive would be a gross understatement. Many within the party, including some of Starmer's own allies, are stunned by the sheer severity of the move. What is perhaps most staggering is that such a proposal is being championed by the leader of a party that has long prided itself on defending the rights of society's most vulnerable. Under Starmer's leadership, a leadership that has consistently presented itself as pragmatic, progressive, and guided by justice, the Labour Party is now actively promoting a crackdown on welfare provisions for disabled individuals. This comes at a time when Britain's economic inequalities have never been more pronounced. While large corporations post record-breaking profits and financial elites continue to benefit from tax breaks, the very poorest are being asked to shoulder yet more austerity. For many within Labour's parliamentary ranks and grassroots membership, the optics are not merely unflattering, they are morally indefensible. The backlash has been both immediate and fierce. Reports from inside the party suggest that Starmer was visibly shaken, white as a sheet, according to one insider, when informed of the rebellion brewing within his own parliamentary party. The Labour whips, tasked with maintaining discipline and loyalty, moved quickly to contain the damage, quietly granting MPs permission to abstain from the vote rather than forcing them into a public show of support for what many are calling a betrayal of the party's core values. This isn't just a political disagreement, it's a moral crisis, one backbencher confided. We didn't enter public life to rubber-stamp policies that would impoverish the disabled. Indeed, what is unfolding within Labour is not the usual Westminster squabble over electoral strategy or public messaging. This is a rebellion of conscience, a principled revolt driven by a sense that the party is being led away from its historical mission. From the backbenches to constituency offices across the country, MPs and activists alike are voicing their dismay, questioning not only the policy at hand, but the direction in which Starmer is steering the party. The proposal to restrict disability benefits has triggered outrage among advocacy organisations, trade unions, and charities that work with vulnerable populations. Disability rights groups have lined up to condemn the policy, describing it as punitive, cruel, and devoid of empathy. One campaigner told Sky News, "This isn't reform, it's cruelty in a suit. It's taking support away from those who need it most while protecting those who need it least." The warnings from experts are grim. Thousands of individuals with chronic illnesses and severe impairments could be pushed into poverty, homelessness, or destitution. The very people the welfare state was designed to protect now face being abandoned in the name of political expediency. But the crisis facing Starmer is not confined to welfare reform alone. Even as discontent simmers over domestic policy, another wave of rebellion is erupting within the party, this time over Labour's response to the conflict in Gaza. Or, more accurately, the lack of response. Starmer's refusal to publicly condemn the ongoing violence against Palestinians has become a lightning rod for criticism. To date, 38 Labour MPs have publicly voiced their opposition to what they perceive as a cowardly and morally indefensible silence from the party leadership. These critics are not fringe radicals or political opportunists. They include senior figures, veterans of the party, and influential rising stars, all united by a shared sense of outrage and betrayal. One MP, speaking to The Independent, drew a chilling comparison: "We didn't sign up to be Trump's doormats." The reference, while provocative, reflects a growing unease that Labour's current positioning mirrors the worst instincts of right-wing realpolitik. While figures such as former US President Donald Trump openly advocate for mass displacement of Palestinians, the leader of Britain's opposition party has yet to offer even the most basic expression of solidarity or concern. He has not issued a statement. He has not posted a tweet. He has, in essence, chosen silence. This silence has created a moral vacuum. For a party that once championed internationalism and human rights, the refusal to speak up in the face of overwhelming violence is more than a dereliction of duty. It is, in the eyes of many within Labour, a moment of shame. The party's traditional support base, including Britain's Muslim communities and younger, socially conscious voters, watching closely. And many are turning away. This is no longer just a foreign policy issue, said one senior Labour aide. It's a test of moral leadership, and we are failing it. To compound matters further, Labour has also moved to block a proposed national inquiry into grooming gangs, a decision that some are calling the final straw. For years, victims and their families have pleaded for a comprehensive investigation into systemic failures that allowed the abuse of vulnerable children to continue unchecked. Those calls have now been met with silence, or worse, with calculated political indifference. What began as policy disagreements has now metastasized into a full-blown crisis of identity for Labour. A party founded on the principles of justice, equality, and social solidarity now finds itself accused, by its own members, of turning its back on those very ideals. The triple crises over welfare, Gaza, and grooming gangs have created a perfect storm, casting doubt not only on Starmer's policies, but on his fundamental vision for the Labour Party. As one MP put it, if Labour won't fight for the poor, won't speak up for justice abroad, and won't defend victims at home, what is the point of Labour at all? With each passing day, the silence grows louder, the dissent grows deeper, and Starmer's grip on the party appears ever more tenuous. What is now at stake is not simply his leadership, but the soul of the Labour Party itself. The sense of betrayal among survivors of grooming scandals and their families has reached a boiling point. We've waited years to be heard. Now Labour has slammed the door in our faces, one victim's relative told the BBC. The reaction has been visceral. For a party that has long presented itself as the defender of the marginalised and the voice of the voiceless, the decision to block a national inquiry into grooming gangs is being interpreted not just as a policy misstep, but as the ultimate betrayal. For many, it begs the question, is this really what Sir Keir Starmer calls leadership? Within Labour itself, the atmosphere has grown toxic. Frustration and disillusionment are no longer confined to the backbenches or the grassroots. They have infiltrated the heart of the party. What is unfolding is not merely a rocky period in government, it bears all the hallmarks of a full-blown civil war. Starmer entered Downing Street with promises of stability, unity, and compassionate governance. What he has delivered instead, according to mounting voices of dissent, is authoritarian silence, cold-hearted austerity, and a party fractured from within. Reports suggest that members of Starmer's own cabinet are increasingly restless. Several ministers are said to be refusing to carry out media duties, unwilling to publicly defend policies they privately oppose. Senior sources within the party have described Starmer's leadership as dictatorial, tone-deaf, and obsessed with style over substance. One insider observed, he governs through fear and photo ops, never through conviction. The proposed cuts to disability benefits, widely seen as an unforgivable breach of Labour's moral tradition, were merely the starting point. Pressure is now building from multiple directions, from the fury over his refusal to condemn Israeli actions in Gaza, to the outcry over the blocked grooming inquiry, to the broader critique that Labour under Starmer no longer knows what it stands for. The scale and intensity of the rebellion suggest that this is no ordinary discontent, it is an existential crisis for the party. As MPs grow bolder in their dissent, and as confidence in the leadership erodes, Starmer is facing the gravest political challenge of his career. The question hanging over Westminster is both pointed and damning. If he cannot maintain the trust of his own cabinet, how can he be expected to govern an entire country? What is becoming increasingly evident is that this is not the portrait of a leader in command. It is the picture of a man on the brink, haunted by anxiety, paralyzed by indecision, and seemingly abandoned by the very party he seeks to lead. The Labour rebellion has begun, and it is accelerating with each passing day. Meanwhile, outside the insular world of Westminster, the political landscape is undergoing its own seismic shift. At the center of this realignment stands a man who thrives on confrontation and is unafraid to speak directly to voters, Nigel Farage. The former UKIP and Brexit Party leader has returned to frontline politics as the face of Reform UK, a party whose recent surge in the polls has stunned political observers and upended the traditional two-party narrative. In a dramatic and deliberately populist gesture, Farage has issued a direct challenge to Starmer, a head-to-head debate, not in the polished, sanitized setting of a television studio, but in a northern working men's club. These are the kinds of venues that once defined Labour's political and cultural heartlands. Farage's choice of location is no accident. It is symbolic, an invitation to engage with the very communities that Labour once represented and, some would argue, has since neglected. Starmer, however, has declined the challenge. His dismissal of Farage as a political sideshow, insisting that only he and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak are viable contenders for number 10, may have sounded credible months ago. But with Reform UK now overtaking the Conservatives in several opinion polls, that claim no longer holds water. Farage's challenge is not simply political theatre, it is a pointed call for accountability. He wants to debate the issues that dominate working-class concerns, the cost of living, rising crime, immigration, and welfare. In refusing to engage, Starmer is being accused not only of political arrogance but of displaying an astonishing disregard for democratic discourse. More troubling still, Starmer's reluctance to debate Farage reflects a deeper unease, a fear of unscripted confrontation and of facing real, unfiltered public scrutiny. While Farage travels the country speaking in plain language to real people about real issues, Starmer continues to rely on carefully choreographed appearances, crafted talking points, and a political image shaped by advisers rather than personal conviction. There is growing concern that the Labour leader, who styles himself as the champion of the working class, is unwilling to step foot in the very communities he claims to understand. Refusing to debate in a working men's club in northern England isn't merely a missed opportunity, it is being perceived as a deliberate snub to millions of ordinary Britons. In dodging Farage's challenge, Starmer is sending an unmistakable message: your concerns are not worthy of direct engagement. Rather than confront the urgent challenges facing the nation, skyrocketing energy bills, housing shortages, a crumbling NHS, he is choosing to preserve his carefully manufactured image, insulated from the real-world consequences of political decisions. Whether one agrees with Farage's views or not, few can deny that he is speaking to the frustrations of an electorate that increasingly feels ignored by the political establishment. His pledges to scrap the two-child benefit cap and reinstate universal winter fuel payments have struck a chord with working-class voters desperate for relief. These are tangible proposals aimed at real problems, precisely the kind of practical, direct policymaking many feel Labour has abandoned. In contrast, Starmer is often viewed as evasive and detached, a figure more comfortable with triangulation than transparency. While his advisers may dismiss Farage as a populist provocateur, the rising support for Reform UK suggests that many Britons are no longer willing to tolerate being ignored, patronised, or dismissed by those in power. A healthy democracy demands robust debate, fearless engagement, and leaders willing to defend their ideas in open forums. By refusing to debate Farage, Starmer is not merely avoiding a political rival, he is undermining the very principles of accountability and open discourse. It raises serious and legitimate questions about his leadership, his courage, and his respect for democratic norms. If Sir Keir Starmer truly believes in his vision for Britain, a vision rooted in justice, equality, and fairness, then he should have no hesitation in standing before the public to defend it. The choice he now faces is stark: engage in honest, unscripted dialogue, or retreat further into the safe, sterile realm of controlled messaging and media management. The country is watching. The voters are waiting. And the clock is ticking.